Welcome back to We Watched a Movie. Wham! Coming at your face every night, every day. Oh, how you feeling? Good. I hope you're doing great. I hope you are. Really do.
You don't really
hope you've had a lot of fucking sex in your life. If you haven't, start to...
Goddamn!
You haven't done that in a while. But I wasn't scared! The Dark Half, a Stephen King novella that was made into a movie in 1993, directed by, crazily, George A. Romero, and starring Mary Poppins, y'all! And you know what's weird is he plays Alan Pangborn in this movie.
Oh.
And Alan Pangborn is actually another, is the same name of a character that's in Needful Things, played by Ed Harris. In Needful Things.
Damn!
It's the same guy, same sheriff, Castle Rock, the whole thing. So it was kind of like a tie-in, felt like, anyway.
Yeah.
It was cool though. This movie is basically about a guy that's a writer, and he starts writing these books under a pseudonym, George Stark. And George Stark writes these novels that are really visceral and mean-spirited and just disgusting, and you know, he was going to cut off your pecker and put it in your mouth because you ratted on him, and that's what you do to rats in prison. When you're fucking with me, you're fucking with the best. Yeah, that's what he was, and this is what Thad Beaumont had been writing under the pseudonym of George Stark, and writing this character named Alexis Machine that did all these bad things, and those books were selling hardcore crazy, and his books, Thad Beaumont's books, weren't selling as much as what he was doing under the pseudonym of George Stark. So eventually he decides, after he's going to get blackmailed, that, you know, George Stark and Thad Beaumont are one and the same person. He decides to go to the press and let everybody know, I'm fucking George Stark, Thad Beaumont and I are the same person. And while in doing so, he releases evil from his dark half butt cheek. But
I hate the dark butt
the
cheek.
weird thing about this movie, and this is a little tidbit.
Othello.
This came out after Richard Bachman was found out to be Stephen King. It was like to him an allegory of his life, because he, you know, Stephen King wrote these more psychological thrillers, and he created Richard Bachman is in a way to express more of a visceral kind of horror, more of an in-your-face, jumpy, scared kind of horror, like more of a disgusting kind of horror. And he got pissed off that he got found out. I don't know, some fucking geek in his basement was jacking off. I don't know how many Stephen King's books there. He goes, it's one and the same. They're both the same. Tickles Einhorn.
That's where I was going.
But
we're best friends
forever.
This also had to do with alcoholism and pill taking and getting fucked up.
I love it.
Because Stephen King, like, this was the last book he wrote before he went into sobriety. And when Stephen King actually went into sobriety, he did a lot of what this character did in the movie. He fired his longtime, like, publicist. He went back to his old publisher. He fired his agent. Because one of the steps in sobriety is to, like, cut yourself free of everybody that you used to drink with and get fucked up with and party with. So when Thad Beaumont's talking to his class, he's like, there's two sides to everybody. There's the side that you show everybody, the one that's proper, the one that's timid, and then there's another side of you, a darker side. And that's the one who's like, I like his little speech there. He's like, give him the keys and let it ride. And that dude in the class is like, yeah. But like, there's a darker side to you that likes to talk dirty and say fucked up things. Basically, the wham side of YouTube.
Yeah,
that likes
to
say nasty ass things and do bad things and all that. And
we're
he's
the
like,
saint side.
that's the part that you have to utilize when you write. Is like, when you write, you can be anyone, you can be free. Nobody wants to read Thad Beaumont.
I wouldn't either. Like, your name's Thad. Like,
he's got great hair though.
Did you read about Thad?
On that nice hair shit.
Yeah, it was. It was Perk Plus Extreme 5000.
Delicious.
But
if you're into that sort of thing.
it was you want to eat it with spaghetti?
Which I'm not.
But
if you are,
so he goes on with, you know, after he goes and reveals it and everything, and what you find out later on, and you found this out early in the movie. This is a spoiler review because it's been out since '93. Come on, get with it, Jack. That he'd had this surgery when he was a kid, and he'd always wanted to be a writer, but this is a gnarly ass scene, okay?
Dude, it was amazing.
So when they do it, you know, this kid, when Thad Beaumont was a kid, he kept having these headaches and shit while he was writing these stories and stuff, and they finally take him to the doctor, and when they find out they need to do this surgery on him, and when they open his fucking brain, you see his eyeball open its fucking eye in his brain, and what's happened is, apparently he was a twin, and he was the stronger fetus. Good for you. You march on. And it absorbed, but not fully, the other fetus, so it lived a little bit in his brain, and that was what's causing his headaches. Well, you find out later on, as he gets older and stuff, he's using this pseudonym of George Stark to write all these graphic stories, and it's not hard. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out really what's going on, because after he stops writing the novels, all these murders start happening in the same way that Alexis Machine in his books written by George Stark was occurring in the novels, and you kind of start figuring out, well, I thought Thad Beaumont and George Stark, he was just doing it because he couldn't remember when he would write these novels. He would get drunk and smoke cigarettes even though he didn't smoke anymore, he didn't drink anymore. He would do all these things under the influence of George Stark. And George Stark, when he stops writing the novel, comes out of the pages of the novel, I guess, to become a real life person, using the soul, I suppose, of his dead brother that got absorbed in the fetus. There's so much fetus shit going on.
A lot of fetuses.
And you find out about the sparrows that there's a lot of fucking birds in this. And they come... Apparently the sparrows are like mythological as far as that they are the ones that transport the dead and the living from the world of the dead and the living. I don't know. I thought that was the fucking crow.
It's one
so you bastard liars.
It's one of those scenes in movies where, and they could do this in the 90s. They can't really do this today, maybe with Google and shit. But in the 90s, if they needed an explanation for something, like why are there sparrows? What's up with the birds everywhere in this movie? They could just pull out a crusty old book from somewhere and go, yes, it says here that sparrows deliver bad people
that might be a real
to
thing,
the nether regions.
I don't know.
It's not. I'm sure it's not.
Books.
But they could do that back in the olden times, back in the 90s. But
I won't touch Hustler with the fucking 10-foot pole.
That scene though that you're talking about, man, I'd never seen this at all before, so this is a first time watch for me, and it's hard to find. I don't think anybody owns the rights to it, so you can't just like rent it on Xbox or whatever. You gotta find the DVD or whatever it is. But I watched it, and when he's a kid and he's trying to write, his mom is the chick from Donnie Darko. She's like, I'm seriously beginning to doubt your commitment to sparkle motion. That's his mom, and he has these episodes as a terrible child actor where he would just stop and flop like a fish and be like, my head.
He had like seizures.
Yeah, but it was just terribly acted. But they have the actual surgery, and that scene, it's maybe 10 minutes into the movie where they have the surgery scene, and I thought we were into it like, this is going to be one of the best Stephen King movies I've ever seen. Because when they're doing the surgery, they open up his brain, and all of a sudden the fucking eye is in the brain. And so one of the nurses is like, oh fuck! And
I would do the same thing though.
But the other nurse, who's like takes her job way too serious, she's just like, remember where you are, Barbara, you stupid bitch.
Yeah, I'm downtown, bitch, at a fucking hospital, and there's an eyeball in his brain!
That's what it is, right? What the fuck?
That's an eyeball!
The fucking children! But yeah, there's an eyeball, there's an eyeball, 2 teeth, and like an ear or some shit in this motherfucker.
Yeah, and that fucking doctor saying he's like, that one has a cavity. He's like, he's been eating dreams. He's been sugary dreams. It's sugary dreams. But yeah, you know, again, I mean, we'll say, okay, I'll go ahead and say the movie itself, there are moments in it that are really good. I thought practical effects wise, fucking amazing. Makeup effect, great. But other times this movie takes the long way around to get to the interstate. It really does. It goes longer than it should on certain scenes, and it drags out certain portions of the film that make you feel kind of like, okay, I get it. I know what's happening. I don't need like 18 fucking reasons why Thad Beaumont is a great writer without George Stark. I get it. Yeah. I know it's like it's more of a allegory about fighting within yourself to control the dark half of yourself versus the light. You know, I get it. The yin and yang and yin, that whole thing. But at the same time, it's like you could have cut certain parts of it out. And I mean, I say that hesitant, because I mean, a lot of Stephen King movie gets that treatment in Hollywood. A lot of them go in there and they fucking butcher it when these screenwriters get a hold of it, and there's so much information that they could have put in the movie that would explain better certain things. But in this one, it's not really, I mean, it's like it's a pissed off Stephen King that wrote this. I mean, you can tell he was mad when he wrote the fucking movie, and there's not really much to go on, so they did their best. But at the same time, they had a lot of great cast in it, and you could have just wrote them in certain small portions and made the film great. But what I will say is that when I hadn't seen this movie in a while, but when I saw that George A. Romero was the director, and I had forgot that, and it popped up, you know, it's like, I have seen the coming of the Lord. I thought it was going to be some fucking wild, crazy shit, but it was still good. I mean, it wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, but it was still good, and George A. Romero knows how to do those visceral fucking scenes so well, and it showcases. I mean, the eyeball thing and the brain, and then there's one scene that was really cool when Thad Beaumont is dreaming and he's going to this cabin and he's listening to George Stark talk to him, and he sees like the turkey split open, blood spill out, and he sees his wife with like a porcelain face that shatters open
good scene.
her skull. Like, there were things in it that were like visually stunning. That was really cool to see. But overall, I think that he just got bogged down by script, and that was really what the issue was.
Typical Stephen King movie, they all do it. This one was different for me in a Stephen King fashion, though. And this one, like typically with Stephen King movies, they take just forever to get to the point, right? Like you said, they take the long way around to get to the interstate. They just go slow and slow and slow, take forever to get to the point. This one,
I want to take the countryside.
Yeah, I want to get the scenic route. This one impressed me though because it got right to the shit, and I thought we were in for something a little bit different.
Within like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but what this one does differently is they pull the old rope-a-dope. They pull the rope-a-dope from Broken Arrow. They like it gets to the point really fucking.
Is that how
quick.
you would box?
Yeah, yeah. The first half of the film is really interesting, and they get to the point really quick in this. But then, what this movie does different that faults it is that once they get to the point and you realize what's going on and you realize everything that's happening, and this dude's committing all these murders, you're just barely halfway through the film. So the second half of the film in this lags on like most Stephen King movies do in the first half. Like I want to be like you said, I already know this person, that person, everything that's going on, and there was a good 40 to 45 minute period there where I was just like, oh my god, nothing new is happening. Michael Rooker, who's the sheriff, he's trying to believe Thad that he didn't commit these murders.
That's the nicest cop ever.
Yeah, because the dude looks like him. All the evidence points to Thad Beaumont, and Michael Rourke is trying his best. Like he's an integral part of the first half of the movie. But then when the climax gets reached and all this stuff happens, Rooker disappears from the fucking movie. You never get a resolution. You get nothing. He's just gone.
Much like my sex life. During the climax, they disappear. It's just me. It's from me. But yeah, you're right. Michael Rooker is such a great actor, and it sucks that they kind of shafted him in the second half of the film. And like I said, I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and I thought he was gonna die or something. And I was thinking, you know what? Don't let Michael Rooker become another Sean Bean, because Sean, he's dying all the time now. And I was like, I don't want you to keep dying. I liked you in The Walking Dead, and I liked you in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I thought you were gonna send us into the future. And no. I hope you guys have seen that. But I like Michael Rooker, and I thought that he could have had more of a significant role. I liked his.
There's an ending to a story. At least.
I know. I did like his character though. I liked the way he was. He was a very everyday guy. He's like, look, I'd rather believe a ghost story than your bullshit you're telling me and stuff. And Thad got annoying. The guy was a good actor, I suppose. The one that played Thad Beaumont / George Stark. When he played George Stark, I was into him. I was like, dude, you're fucking good.
See,
man.
I liked him so much more as Thad.
I liked him
when
as
he played
George.
George, dude, he was a little over the top for me. Like,
That's what I like.
I gave him that Mississippi mud accent. I know it's the book, but I'm just like it felt fake to me.
Yeah, but he is fake. He's not even a real person.
Right, but
I just loved that fucking badass. He just felt like the lost brother of the Geckos. Like he could just be that guy. I don't know. He just was cool, but he got a little whiny when he was being interviewed by Michael Rooker, which I understand why he was getting whiny, because he was accusing him of murder and shit. He had his babies there and stuff. But it was just like, I just want to smack your fucking wig off, because you look like you're wearing a wig, but
it's gray hair, man.
It could be.
It's just gray hair.
But the old lady that he works with, because Thad Beaumont's professor, on top of while he works as a writer, is a witch doctor or something. And she's telling him all this fucking magical stuff, and
out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly, out of nowhere. And the things that she says, she was like, he's like, thank you for letting me use your car. I'll give you some money for a cab. She's like, no, thank you for an adventure. I'll be like, bitch, people are dying. My family's in danger. This isn't fucking Fantasia. Like, it just felt like she was saying, like, thank you for an adventure. Like, an adventure to what? To my death?
It seemed like they cut. I almost went back and watched. I thought I fell asleep or something.
That levity was just way out.
It's like they skipped a scene.
Yeah.
Like, explaining her character and what the fuck she was doing.
Like, she was like one of those older ladies, like Murder, She Wrote. She'd been like living alone and really depressed. It's like, and she was really involved in helping Thad Beaumont discover George Stark and the spiritual side of what's going on with him. Maybe I'd be like a little bit more understanding, thank you for the adventure. Yeah. But when she says it like that, I'd be like, look, you fucking shithead. I am going to die, and my soul is going to be carried away by sparrows. Not even crows. Sparrows.
Goddamn tattoo birds.
But it did feel out of place. And then, she's the one that explains to him about, she's the one, through her, you get to understand what George Stark actually is. In a way, it's kind of explained, because apparently what was aborted by, from his brain when they took that part of his twin out, his parents, Thad Beaumont's parents, wanted to be treated like human remains and buried in their plot next to them. And somehow or another, while he was writing the George Stark, or under the George Stark pseudonym, writing the Alexis Machine novels, the soul, or a soul, like somehow conjured up this being from those remains, from fucking a tooth and an eyeball, that became a badass Mississippi killer. I guess. I mean, I'll go with it. I mean, how much fucking beer have you drank today?
You've touched upon the dark butthole of this movie. Like, there is a gaping dark butthole right in the middle of this movie, and I can't understand how you can make something like this and just have this. It's the biggest fucking plot hole I've ever seen.
That's the biggest butthole I've ever seen.
That's the biggest butthole I've ever seen. They never ever explain in this movie where the fuck George Stark comes from. The literal human rendition of him, the one who's falling apart, and his whole goal apparently is to make Thad write more books as George Stark, because that apparently keeps him alive. But neither the book, and I didn't read the book, I just read this in someone's review of it, neither the book nor the movie takes time to stop and go, this is how George Stark came to be. This is what he is.
Which is unusual for a King novel, because King is actually pretty good about doing that kind of thing.
You're waiting the entire movie to figure out, okay, this is cool, it's freaky, I get what's happening here. Once you realize that it's not just Timothy Hutton's, Thad Beaumont's alter ego that's doing it, once you realize, oh, there really is a George Stark out there murdering people with this fucking barber blade in a badass way.
That is cool.
It is in a badass way, the way he kills people. I like that. But I like the way you kill people, motherfucker.
I'm taking notes.
But they never actually take the time to explain how the entire movie came to be.
There were things about it I really did enjoy. Like, I thought George Stark was cool. I thought that character was cool. I like that he drove that stupid Tornado and he had that high tone or high tone son of a bitch on the back.
Yeah.
And I just felt like what would have set it over the edge is every time he got out of the car to kill somebody, or when he was going to kill somebody, he's like, "No, you're messing with the son of a bitch." Like, it would have fit his character perfectly. And I mean, there were things I wish they had done differently. Could this movie be remade with like a Quentin Tarantino fucking style?
Yeah,
I think it would be amazing.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, it's still a solid movie. And you know what? The one thing about this movie, it's nostalgic for me, but it feels like a Halloween movie. You know what I mean? Like when you watch it, it feels like it should be going into autumn. So when you're watching, you're like, yeah, it feels good. I like it.
I also like the level of meanness that comes from this movie, because typically it's mean, like you said, it's meaner than most Stephen King movies. And this is when he was getting ready to get off the alcohol and the pills or whatever he was on.
Get off that dope, Stephen!
The way people are murdered, the way people are killed, this is a mean fucking movie. And it's nice to see that little one project departure for him, for his typical stuff. I enjoy that. I enjoy the serial killer aspects of it. And then the ending, we'll talk about that real quick before we give our ratings, is badass. I just wish, again, there was context. I wish I knew where the fuck this guy came from, what the fuck is going on. But ultimately, the sparrows come, and the sparrows look good. Like, Romero filmed this movie well.
It looked good.
But the sparrows come, and ultimately, he's holding his family hostage and his twins or whatever. And
George Stark is.
Yeah, and finally the sparrows just come through, they break through the house, and they literally pick him apart, eat him alive, and carry away nothing but his torso. But the fucking special effects in that scene, dude, they were so good. There was birds going through his fucking skull and through his ear and just chopping away at him.
It's only like awesome. Certain directors that can do that, like with that practical effects shit, and Romero nailed it. And I knew, even when George Stark was falling apart, it looked good. Like, he had cataracts in his eyes, and his shit was all gooey and sponged up, and it looked like fucking a zombie, and, you know, of course Romero's gonna know how to do that. But when you're right, when he gets picked apart, it looks badass. It looks, the movie itself is polished, and I think it was a theatrical release movie, so you can tell they had studio money, but it still looks amazing. The only problem with the ending I had, again, context and not having enough background to really fill out what's happening, and the way it just fucking suddenly ends, is that the whole big showdown between George Stark and Thad Beaumont is like, let's have a write-off. They sat down behind a desk, and, you know, George and him are having like a moment. He's like, you got a cigarette, Thad? Or, you know, Thad's like, you have a cigarette, George? He's like, I thought you quit. He's like, only when I'm writing with you. And all this stuff. And then, like, he starts writing, and he's looking at George, and George's like, and then he's like, well, maybe you should try it. And he starts writing, and it actually starts doing good. And then, because that's the whole point, if Thad were to write a book and keep George Stark alive in the novels, then George Stark would stop deteriorating and become a full person and basically take over the life of Thad Beaumont.
It requires a lot of fairy dust.
Yeah, it would be like they become one person. And to become one. And that's what I gathered. And so when George Stark starts writing, Thad Beaumont starts like fading away and he starts bleeding, a cut opens up, and he starts getting like sickness on his face. I was just like, so the whole thing is not like some big showdown. It's just, I'm going to write a better poem than you.
He's trying to become a stronger twin.
Yeah, and then
via writing.
Eventually, I don't know, he fucking stabs George Stark in the fucking throat with a needle, like with a pencil, and then that somehow alerts the birds to come get him. Like, I don't know. It's like, because I thought you couldn't kill him. Like, he's not even real, but he couldn't kill you because you are real. I don't fucking know. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I've gone the cross-eyed Lord. But again, it was shot solid. I just think that sometimes the execution fell flat, because I don't even think Romero really knew what to do with it. I mean, he was like, look, it's a good movie. I've got some good images and some film I want to show with it, but I don't really know what to do with my hands.
That's exactly it, dude. Also, I give the movie overall a 5.5. Like, that's it for me. Like, the first half of it, I love it. I love the idea of the duality of a writer and letting his freak flag fly and writing these crazy books. They took it to step 3 into an awesome way, and then just never fulfilled it.
It's a 7.0 for me. I like the movie a little bit more than you. I always enjoyed this movie. I don't know why. I guess because it reminded me of like autumn and Halloween and stuff.
We love your fucking faces, and if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button and get some goddamn wham up in your dark half.
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie. We watched a movie.